Good evening, Warriors, and welcome into another edition of the R&R Sports Report. My name is Randy Isbell. With me, as always, Mr. Robert Hagan. Robert, man, what's up?
Still trying to get over this sickness, man.
It's brutal.
It is nasty. It is brutal, and it is affecting so many people in our area. It's crazy listening to friends of ours, also teachers that was out last week. It's just been nasty.
Yeah, I had a version of the crud a couple weeks ago. I still haven't gotten over the cough part of everything, but as Robert has to mute himself to cough, it's just what's going around. I know Clarkson canceled some basketball games yesterday. Working at the Tribune last night was insane as different games got canceled or rescheduled, and other games that had been postponed got moved. We had down for Troy versus Prairie, and it ended up being Prairie traveling to Potlatch instead, just because Troy had sickness, and it's a mess for local sports. It's been fun, but we were doing there, and Robert's already talking crap. Robert's ready. We're gonna have lots of fun. We're gonna talk a lot of football. Of course, usually NFL takes over the entire first hour of our show. Then we get some local stuff. Basically, no different today, as there's only 3 weeks left of the regular season, and there's only 5, maybe 6 teams that are officially eliminated right now from the postseason. Many of them are on the brink, and we don't think that they have any chance. But there are so many different scenarios going on. It's like the results we had this last weekend, which we're going to get to, clarified almost nothing as far as the bottom part of the wild card. If anything, it brought more teams back into the mix.
Yeah, 100%. Some of these teams that you would have thought would have been done and gone and out all of a sudden still have this chance. And the division of the NFC South is still the most whacked out. Who is going to take that one home? That one
Yeah.
for me, with 3 weeks left, that I think that's the bigger story. Who's going to be
Disaster.
outplay? Who's going to outplay who to get in?
It's an absolute disaster. Just insane. But before we get to all that, let me just tell you what's on tap for tonight's show. The Avista Tournament, one of our favorite events of the entire year, is just 7 days away. That will affect our show, but we will tell you more of that later on in the show. Keep tuned or keep track to the Facebook page if you can't stay for the whole 2 hours. We're going to rank the wildest games from this past weekend. There's a lot. The list is long, but we're going to have some fun trying to rank which one was the craziest. How about the Lapwai boys? We always talk about what Zach Eastman has been able to do with that team. They put up over 100 points for the second straight game last week. We'll talk about that in the second hour. The LCSC women have moved up into the top 10 of the NAIA rankings and continue to roll. We'll talk about what they've been doing. Also, the volleyball team for the Warriors signed a couple of teammates, and I'm very happy to say that I can pronounce both of these names. So I'm very happy with these signings. Sean Pullman has been listening and has put that into consideration for these people that he signs. Washington State no-showed their bowl game this last week. Both of us got that one wrong. And oh yeah, it's Christmas this weekend. So there's only a few things going on. Right now for your scoreboard, the one bowl game that has taken place was the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. Eastern Michigan defeated San Jose State 41-27. Right now at halftime, Liberty is beating Toledo in your roofclaim.com Boca Raton Bowl. Because, God, I hate these things so much. There's 5 NBA games tonight. There's 8 NHL games, including, I've lost it. There we go.
Release the Kraken!
There were 3 top 25 battles in the NCAA on the women's side. Oregon, number 16, defeated number 17 Arkansas 85-78. Last I saw, number 19 Michigan was rolling number 6 North Carolina. I have not seen a final there, though. And then later tonight, number 21 Creighton is at number 2 Stanford. Just one top 25 battle in the men tonight. Number 6 Virginia at number 22 Miami. That's easy for me to say. And, of course, Gonzaga's hosting Montana starting about 5 minutes ago. So I know my dad's not watching this show, at least not live. And then already Drake upset number 15, Mississippi State 58-52. And it was the Bulldogs' first loss of the season. All right, so got some other sports out of the way. Now let's focus on football. Are you ready?
It's going to be crazy. I don't know how I'm going to handle myself, especially in the 2 that you're going to talk about in the crazy division that cost me my lead in the picks. We'll talk about that later, but 2 games.
Wow. I wish it cost you your entire lead, not just me cutting into your lead. But finally, I cut into your pick'em lead just a little bit. Just a little. But we'll get into it. All right. So we have, 7 games that we're going to go through. So our format, we've been having some fun playing games and stuff, and we'll go through some games. We still have other games that we'll talk about with our fill in the blanks and over-unders and all that other fun stuff. But we're going to have some fun trying to rank which of these 7 football games was the craziest this past weekend. All right. Let's start with the one that happened the closest to today. Sunday Night Football, the New York Giants and the Washington Commanders. Giants hold on to win that one 20-12. Listen, neither quarterback was that great in that game. The game seemed pretty normal between these two for the first 55, 58 minutes until that last drive for Washington where Brian Robinson looked like he scored, where Washington would then be able to get the 2-point conversion attempt to try to tie the game up. But the sideline official throws the flag for illegal formation. Now, Terry McLaurin claims that he checked with the official. He told him to move up. He did. He says he checks with the official again, who said, okay, you're cool. And then that official threw the flag on him. I'll talk about that in a minute because No. And then on the fourth down pass, just to add to even more craziness, Heineke tries to go to Curtis Samuel, and Darnay Holmes was in the Christmas spirit and decided to just give Samuel a hug mid-play, and there was no call on that. Giants win, so they firm up the 6th seed right now. Washington now only a half game up over Seattle and Detroit. Robert, what did you think of this game?
That was the game that trying to focus on bowling and trying to bowl and still not feeling 100%. But you're right. For them to go to the official, throw the flag, it was a little on the rough side for me just to see. You ask the guy, "Are you on?" But for me, that's a tough one for even junior high kids to try to. We're constantly telling them, make sure you check in, make sure you check in. I wonder if the official, if he did check in with the official and the official just kind of, okay, you're there. And he just did not. No, I missed the whole thing. And so I had to watch it replay. So I'm not.
I've watched the replays of this, especially after, I follow Matthew Berry, who was the fantasy football analyst and was part of ESPN for a while. Now he's NBC, but big Washington fan. And he was losing his mind on Twitter. Listen, McLaurin does check with the referee. McLaurin is over a yard away from the line of scrimmage. He looks at the referee, who kind of points to the ground and is like, you need to step up. McLaurin moved 2 inches, barely looked back at the referee and just thought he was good. He's like, oh, you need me to move up? And just scooted forward just an inch. The moment McLaurin barely moves, the referee reaches back for his flag because he knows he's not on, and he's ready to flag him for it. It's all on McLaurin. He can complain about the referee saying, oh, he cleared me. No, you checked. He said no. And then you never took the time to really look at him again and said, now am I good?
No.
This is on him. It's a good call, and it sucks for Washington. But I think referees made a lot of interesting and possibly terrible calls, and we'll get into some of those. This one?
All weekend. Yeah, and that's the thing. All weekend it was that way. But there was more formation penalties that I've seen this week than there was in a couple of the others. The Baltimore game, there was 2. Pittsburgh game, there was.
Game.
I know. So for me, it's just crazy to some of these officials. It's coming down to them. But yeah, you're paid millions of dollars. If you're not up on the line because of your I'm going to move just 2 inches, 3 inches and not recheck with the guy, that's on you, dude.
Oh yeah. And listen, the pass interference call was absolutely missed. That play was a big factor in the Giants win. They call that, then Washington has several more chances to try to score. Who knows if they do, and who knows if they get the 2-point conversion after that. It's just semantics afterwards. But let's go ahead and just put Giants Commanders in the middle of the pack right now.
Yeah,
obviously.
I would say so. Yeah, I would say so, especially, watching in that game and replays. Thibodeau had a heck of a game. So to see him come out with the scoop of scores. Yeah,
I'm not putting that up there.
I'm not either, but yes, I agree with that.
I'm still waiting for Taylor's evidence on the Schaefer stuff. I've been having fun with him this week. Let's move to the afternoon games. Let's get to the 2 games that allowed me to get back to 9 games back. I'm coming. I'm going to catch you. And all I have to say, sir, is
acknowledge me.
I'm coming back. I'm making the crazy comeback. I just got to give 3 games.
3 games each
3
week.
games each week. So I need you to stop copying my papers. And it starts with our picks coming up later. All right. Let's start with the first one. This might end up being the top.
This is the top.
Las Vegas Raiders.
Just type it in there now.
Defeating the New England Patriots 30-24. Now, before we get to the silliness at the end, I want to give a shout out to Ramondre Stevenson, who had a great game for the Patriots. 19 carries, 172 yards and a touchdown. I want to laugh at Mac Jones, who people continue to still call the baby goat. He was 13 of 31 for 112. We'll get into Zach Wilson. Mac Jones made Zach Wilson look like Patrick Mahomes this week. Just saying. But Stevenson was part of the crazy play that we'll get to. So which one do you want to start with? The controversial call or the worst play in NFL history? Which one do you want to focus on first?
Well, the worst play in NFL history is the one that ends the game. So,
Yes, so
we might as well start with the other one first.
All right. So Keelan Cole, 30-yard touchdown to help tie the game with 32 seconds left. Possibly his foot was on the line. I do believe his foot was on the line, but I messaged Robert Taylor after this, and I don't know if he still thinks I'm trolling or not. It is extremely close. Now, from the best angle that the NFL was able to show during all the replays, it does look like you can kind of see the curvature of his foot on the white.
Mm-hmm.
But from a replay perspective, I can also understand the argument that angle shows behind his foot, and maybe we are just seeing it at one of those weird optical illusion things, and maybe he's just barely right on the line and they couldn't straight say it. I believe that if they would have called him out of bounds, obviously they were not going to reverse it. It was just one of those situations. It is too close to call. But if you had to ask me right then and there, after seeing the replays, was he in or out? I do think he was out.
I 100%. I think he was out too. He was on the line. I needed this game and to watch them take the big lead, and then for New England to get back into it. But from what I could see, he looked like he was on the line, 100%.
That doesn't matter because
to let them
Carr would have came back and made the next play.
But to let him score with 32 seconds left on a 30-yard pass play.
Actually, you know what? This interesting play, that controversial play, we'll say controversial play, and then the crazy play we're about to talk to, hides the fact that for the 38th straight week, the Las Vegas Raiders had a double-digit lead and blew it.
Yeah.
How is that possible?
Yeah, I feel bad for Jacobs because Josh Jacobs has been playing quite well this year, and I feel bad Vontae Adams and him and Derek Carr getting back together. You know, we had high hopes for this one. I really did. I had higher hopes for this team too. Mm-hmm. Is there something in the water? Do they have dancing girls in there during halftime?
Who knows?
I mean, what is going on with this team that they cannot finish a game?
Hey, to be fair, neither of us had the Raiders in the playoffs. I know a lot of people did. I've made some really bad preseason predictions, but Raiders not making the playoffs has been a good one for me. All right, let's get to it. Craziest play I think I've ever seen in my entire life. And it was kind of spoiled by a buddy of ours as we were texting back and forth, and he just sent a giant LOL at me as the play is going on my screen, because I watch it on the streaming version of Sunday Ticket, and I'm just a couple seconds behind. And I'm not expecting anything crazy to happen during this play. And then I saw what happened and understood what the LOL was for. All right, so Stevenson takes the handoff with 5 seconds to go, gains over 20 yards, decides for whatever reason to toss it back to Jakobi Meyers. Meyers then runs around. He loses his mind. Throws it across the field perfectly to his former Patriot teammate, Chandler Jones, who then just trucks Mac Jones on his way to win the game. I'm just going to start with this. Well, first off, you have to play this.
If you were to look up all-time bonehead plays,
who was the bonehead? Who was the biggest bonehead in this play? I asked you that question.
First, I think it's Myers. I mean, Stevenson did have the first down, but by that time, the time was out. Clock was done. So there was no time on the clock. He knew where he wasn't going to get. You should have went down. But for Jakobi Meyers to kind of spin around and throw it to a guy, literally, here's the thing. You go back and watch the play. Chandler Jones is on the ground as Stevenson runs by. He literally gets back up. They showed a play. I want to say it was on Good Morning Football, and they showed the expanded play out where he is literally laying on the ground, gets up, and then as Myers is spinning back around, Jones is miraculously standing back up and catches the ball, and then decides to truck over Mac Jones. And the look of Mac Jones's face after he gets run over, priceless.
All right. So you blame
I-
Myers.
I would blame Meyer more than anybody.
Myers has a lot to do with this play. And I'm curious what you think of my take is. The biggest bonehead in this play is Bill Belichick. 5 seconds to go in regulation of a tie game, and you run a halfback draw. What possible good outcome is going to come from running this football? You can gain a few yards, but it's not going to do anything. You have 5 seconds. The clock's going to run out. You're 55 yards away from the end
55.
zone? Why aren't you throwing a Hail Mary with Mac Jones?
Well,
He says, well, my quarterback can't get it there. Then kneel the ball. Go to overtime. You are basically saying we're going to overtime by doing a halfback draw at that point. Now the only thing that could happen is a fumble. And this technically turned out to be a fumble, but not the way he thought of. Just kneel the ball, go to overtime.
Do you think that's a Bill Belichick play, or do you think that's a Matt Patricia play? Because here's the
Belichick
thing.
allowed it to happen.
Yeah,
If they line up with 5 seconds to go and they're not in kneel down formation, and Bill Belichick's not calling timeout and or running on the field, killing somebody, and Patricia didn't get fired yesterday.
Right. And I think they had 2 timeouts left. Correct?
Can't remember honestly at that point, but it's bad play call. Just go to overtime. Nothing good is going to come from that play. Mm-hmm. And it showed. The worst case scenario happened, and the Raiders ended up with the win. It's good for the Jets. They keep this small hope of playoff life in there because we need the Patriots to fall out because we do not win that tiebreaker, obviously. All right. Move to the other game I got right that you got wrong. Got me back within single digits. The Jacksonville Jaguars come back to beat Dallas 40-34. Cowboys had a 21-7 lead at half, 27-10 in the third quarter. But Zay Jones was fantastic. He had 3 touchdowns receptions. The poise of Trevor Lawrence, I thought, was really, really good, especially on that final drive to get them into field goal range to tie it and go into overtime. I thought he looked really good. There was that really controversial play of at first they called the receiver not out of bounds. They were going to have to use their last time out then. They do review it and say, no, he got himself out of bounds and he was going forward. So they were able to save that timeout to use when they got into field goal range. I think that was a big call for the referees there as well. And then Jenkins with the big interception on Dak Prescott, which I'm not a Prescott sympathizer. I'm not an apologist for him. That's not on Prescott. That's on the receiver for not making the catch. And not only not making the catch, but popping it up. And Jacksonville takes it all the way. And the Jaguars are on the prowl for that AFC South, and I love it.
Listen, I know way too much about Zay Jones. Zay Jones beat up on Baltimore when they ended up winning a few weeks ago. So he is a great player, good hands. I just don't understand the placement of the pass from Prescott on that play. Looked pretty well. I would have run the ball there. I still don't understand why they don't take a chance. I want to say it's 3rd and 3.
Somewhere around 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4.
I would have put the hands in Pollard. Pollard had a couple of big runs, a couple of powerful runs. I would have handed the ball off there, try to keep moving down the ball. You know, the placement of where Prescott, where you're taught to throw the ball, you're taught to throw low and away, which it was, but you could just see that receiver's arm just pops it right up. And so I think that one is, I am 100% with you. It's more on the receiver blowing that one, but I don't know. Run the ball. McCarthy, run the ball.
Nah, I think the play call was fine. Just unlucky break, I think, for Dallas. Obviously, I think this was more crazy than the Giants-Commanders game. Yeah,
I would say
but
so, yes.
obviously not ahead of the Raiders-Patriots. So right now we'll put it at 2. We'll see if it stays there. We'll won't touch on this too much because I don't think it goes too high on the list. But it was an interesting ending as well. The Jets do lose to the Detroit Lions 20-17. I thought Zach Wilson looked fine in the first half. I want to say it was 7-10. I still think he's going for the home run play over the quick passes. And it was definitely that way in the second half after he threw his interception. He got that shakiness in the pocket again and the uncertainty in his head and just looked bad. But they were still in it. They took the lead. They're up by 4, under 2 minutes to go. Had the Lions down to 4th and inches. And then they do this just beautiful play where I even turned to Haley at that point. Is like, I would love to be mad, but that play was too good. Brock Wright, who I've never heard of, stays in the block for like 2 or 3 seconds before finally breaking out. Nobody is on that side of the field. And he turns an easy catch into a 51-yard touchdown, gives the Lions the lead. The Jets' time management after that was garbage. Absolutely stupid, and I hated all of it. Wilson is able to connect on a 4th and 18 play for 20 yards to set up a 58-yard field goal. I'm not going to be mad at Greg Zuerlein for missing that one. That's a very tough kick, and he has made some fantastic ones for the Jets this year. Just unable to get the job done. Congrats to the Lions, but that close for the Jets.
So my question to you then is, why are they still treating Zach Wilson the same way when you want to get him into repetition? Why are you not designing those play calls what they did with Mike White and just give him some short jump passes? But
he doesn't take it.
That's what I haven't watched enough of your games over the last few weeks to 2 weeks to see if it's just back to him trying to hit the big play or if he's
he might just suck at this point.
So, yeah, but, hats off Dan Campbell, what he's done with that team to turn those guys around and what he is doing. That just puts more emphasis for me. If Detroit keeps going the way they are, he has to be in the conversation for Coach of the Year.
He's up there, and I think the Lions are going to make the playoffs. They're going to save me from my Washington elimination. And it's going to be great. Crazier game, the Giants or the Jets?
I would say the Giants.
That's true. Goff has been really good. And that's actually one thing I did put in the notes that I did not bring up. That offensive line for the Lions, there are 29, maybe even 31 other teams that are jealous of what Goff has right now with that offensive line. He has not thrown an interception in 3 games because he's really not been rushed. And he hasn't been sacked in the last 2. Now, I know Quinnen Williams wasn't there for the Jets, so the offensive line or defensive line for New York was not as strong as it has been all year. But the Jets bring pressure, and they did not sack Goff a single time. And he also absolutely avoided Sauce Gardner. Not one target towards Gardner the whole game.
I honestly think you have 2 of the top 2 defensive guys. And I told you after watching the one game that Williams could have easily be in that defensive player of the year.
We just need a quarterback. Mike White's okay. Zach Wilson is just continuing to show he's not it.
You still got a veteran there that can't hold on to the ball. You're welcome very much.
I'm kicking you out. I'm kicking you out of the show. All right. Put the Jets underneath the Giants Commanders for now. Let's go back to Saturday. Saturday was crazy. Buffalo defeating the Miami Dolphins 32-29. Miami scored the first 16 points in the second half to take an 8-point advantage. Then the snow started to fall in Buffalo, which is what we've just all been waiting for. They were talking about
all game long.
2 feet were supposed to fall, and it just refused to. And even when it did fall, it wasn't a dumping, but it just brought that Buffalo football flavor to the end of the game. That snow and turf do not look like they mix very well. and it just looked like a slip-slidey mess for those players. Buffalo were able to tie it with 9 minutes to go, and then use basically a 6-minute drive that took 15 plays to ice that game and survive against the Dolphins. What were your thoughts of this game?
Listen, I was too busy messaging one of our guys in our loser pool who you were hoping he was.
Oh, man.
This was the game, and I told him, I said, I wouldn't have even touched this game. Buffalo was favored by 7, as you can tell. They held it to 3. This was one that you would be sweating the entire time, and for me, it was. I was so tired of listening to the announcers, though. Well, it should be snowing, the entire game. That's all they talked about the entire game. Well, it should have been here, and I was just so tired of listening to it.
Luckily, I only got to watch like the last 2.5 quarters of this game because I was covering Lewiston basketball and then went down to the Tribune, so I had no sound. So I didn't have to deal with any of that.
Yeah, so it was a great game, but do you doubt Josh Allen and what he can do in the final minutes with that team?
He's very clutch.
He's been very clutch.
I talked about Miami losing out possibly and missing the playoffs. They put up a fantastic fight, and we'll talk about their schedule as we get into the playoffs and stuff, but they impressed me as well as far as playing a really tough team, and they are now in that really tight window of making the playoffs or not, and we'll see what they're able to do. But question is, where does this rank in our craziest games of the week? Does it go, let's just start at the bottom. Does it go above or below the Lions and the Jets?
For me, I would put it probably I would put it at the bottom, honestly. Okay. I think for me, I think the play of Brock Wright was a little bit bigger ending to that one, even though it was a great time management, the very, very well time management run by Sean McDermott and the whole team. I think it just wasn't as much as
I think it's fair to say Buffalo Miami was the better game. I think Detroit and the Jets had the crazier moments.
Right.
And that's what we're going on is crazier.
Yep.
All right. Minnesota, Indianapolis. Speaking of crazy, again, I just said I went and covered the Lewiston games on Saturday. When I left, Indianapolis was up 13-0. Then Haley messages me throughout the game and said, "Hey, are you keeping track of the Minnesota game?" I went, "No, I'm doing my job and watching these games and calling them and doing all that stuff." Well, in between games, I look on my phone and see Minnesota came back and won. I was like, "Oh, that's cool." Thinking that it was just a 13-0 game. It wasn't until I got to work 4 hours later when I went, they were down 33-0, and it's Matt Ryan involved again. How is life?
And how they did it without Jonathan Taylor too, and then to be up that high, give up 33 points, and watch out, here comes Justin Jefferson and all that in the defense. Justin Jefferson, KJ Osborne, dude, those two guys could easily start talking about being probably one of the top 5 tandems that playing right now, if not top 3 tandems playing.
You have to think about it.
But hats off to what Justin Jefferson can do, and Kirk Cousins to keep things going. Throws up over 400. I mean, just for them to orchestrate and to basically go, I want to say, if I remember right, Minnesota scored a field goal, and then Indianapolis got their last field goal before Minnesota ran it out on them and shut them out the rest of the game. And
I think Minnesota scored a touchdown, and then Indy added a field goal, and then it went wild. But I could be wrong. But speaking of that field goal, happened early in the second half. I wrote down the rest of the drives for Indianapolis in regulation: 4 plays, then a punt; 3 plays, then a punt; 4 plays, then a fumble; 5 plays, then a turnover on downs; 3 plays, then a punt. And then they had to kneel down to go into overtime. They just could get absolutely nothing going, which shows how much it was a full team effort, which is why I'm going to bring up this question. And I joked with Robert Taylor about it before the show. Are we being unkind to Kirk Cousins for not putting him even in the conversation for MVP? Because not because he is going out there putting up ridiculous numbers, but how many games has he come back in the fourth quarter? I mean, obviously not 33-0 is insane, but I want to say all but one of their wins has come by in a single possession game. Many of those in comeback fashion. At some point, you have to go, that's pretty damn valuable. Now, I don't put him in my top 3 right now, but I'm questioning myself if I am being unfair to Kirk Cousins just because we are so used to him not showing up in prime time.
Yeah, I would put him top 5 right now, but he's not my leader for MVP. But I mean, that's a fair question. You look at it and what he is orchestrating with Jefferson. But I think the biggest problem for me is the consistency of what Dalvin Cook has been doing for this ball club. I think if he was a little bit more consistent in what's been going on, it would be a whole different realm. But you make a great point about being behind a lot of times. That defense really has to assure itself up getting ready to go into the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. And I do kind of agree that Jefferson probably is more valuable. And which again might just be us sliding Kirk Cousins. But I think Jefferson is up there. You brought up, and I will give you credit for this, as he says with Tyreek and Tua. I put Tyreek ahead of Jefferson in the MVP race as far as the offensive player of the year race. I think Jefferson right now is the offensive player of the year, and you called it at midseason. So I'll give hats off to you there for sure. All right. Rank them. 33-0 or the dumbest lateral you've ever seen in your life, which was crazier this weekend.
33-0 or dumbest lateral. The crazier one, the
Yes.
stupidest lateral that ever happened.
Okay. Obviously, we put does Vikings come back second then ahead of the Cowboys and Jaguars?
It has to be. I would think it has to be.
Okay. We'll put it there. One more game to go. We'll go a little bit off track just for a little bit. It was the World Cup final on early Sunday morning. I actually got up and watched it, and I'm glad I did. Fantastic game between Argentina and France. I'm not a soccer guy, so I'm usually lost with all this stuff. But the drama involved in this game was insane. Messi trying to win his first World Cup. He goes out and scores on a penalty kick. I still don't understand why the person that gets penalized or gets the foul called against him is not the one that kicks the penalty kick. I went to my soccer friends and went, could you imagine if basketball did this rule and every time you fouled the center, Steph Curry got to shoot the free throws? That's what I feel like with that. But I mean,
Messi, immens Messi, encara 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 Messi, gol.
Messi scores 2 goals in this game. Also was part of a breakaway that helped Argentina jump out to a 2-0 lead. And then you just kind of sit back for a while and you're like, all right, Argentina's going to beat France. The France team just can't get anything going. And can't get really any opportunities. Next thing you know,
Mbappe!
the guy that was it the golden boot or the golden ball? I always forget which is the high score and which one's the MVP for this thing. But Mbappe, who scored the most goals in the World Cup, scores on a penalty and then scores a minute and a half later to tie the game at 2.
That was a sick goal.
Oh man, they go into extra time. Messi scores his second, as I said before, on a crazy rebound that the team was nearly offside. And then the defender nearly saved it because the goalie was on the ground saving the first one, but he was in the goal when he saved it. So now it looks like, again, Argentina is going to win. And then with 2 minutes left in extra time, Mbappe becomes the second man ever to have a hat trick in a World Cup final. Jeff Hurst of England did it back in 1966. Carly Lloyd did it for the USA in the Women's World Cup final. And she did it in the first 16 minutes of that match. That was crazy enough. But just insane. They go to penalty kicks, which is always the most dramatic way to finish off any kind of a championship game. A sudden death in hockey for a game 7 is pretty intense as well. But how much of this did you get to watch, and what'd you think?
So I got to watch about 3 minutes before Mbappe scored his first goal. So it was still 2-0 in the second half, and so I get to watch all of the end. And going into the penalty kicks, like I said, though, Mbappe's second goal was
really good.
Was sick for him to stretch out the way he was and get it. And then come down to penalty kicks after the 2 15-minute extra time. So it was kind of funny to watch the very first set of penalty kicks with Mbappe going first, and then Messi going second, and the different speed that Messi hit that ball. I was like, oh my God, is it going to get there? And he's
it's all about
very, very slow.
Yeah, you're just trying to deceive the goalie at that point.
Yeah.
It's interesting. All right, so where do we put the World Cup final? Obviously, I think Raiders, Patriots would keep 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the 33-point comeback by the Vikings has to be 2. So then we start getting into the fun part. Cowboys, Jaguars, or the World Cup final?
I would say the World Cup on that one. So for me, I would put it third.
It was a great way to start the Sunday. That is for sure. I'll add it in here, World Cup final. So for us, craziest 7 games of the weekend. Raiders, Patriots, just insanity. Colts, Vikings with the crazy comeback. World Cup final. I know Robert Taylor absolutely hates soccer, but I'm not a soccer fan, and that World Cup final was insane and fantastic. Cowboys, Jaguars was really good. Then Giants, Commanders, Lions, Jets. And then 7th, even though it was still a very good game, Dolphins and Bills. All right, let's get into some more NFL games. And
answer my question! The question, jerk!
Time to fill in the blank.
Yes, Mr. McEnroe. Yes, Mr. McEnroe.
Let's go through Thursday night's game. It feels like an eternity ago. But San Francisco did clinch the NFC West. They defeated Seattle 21-13. My question to you, the best quarterback on the San Francisco roster is...
as much as I want to say Mr. Irrelevant right now, getting them and still keeping them in the playoffs, I'm still going to go with Jimmy G. What Jimmy G was doing before he got hurt and injured, for a guy that was not playing, wasn't even practicing with the team there for a while. I just think he, when everything was when he was wanting the trade, and for him to keep them in it, you got to lean Jimmy G on this one.
Do you know what Brock Purdy says to Jimmy G when they get into the quarterback room?
I'm better than you, and you know it.
It's Brock Purdy. He's been fantastic. Jimmy G is the more known quantity, but Purdy understands his role, and he does a great job of using Christian McCaffrey. Well, Deebo Samuel when he was healthy, and George Kittle. He was 2 big touchdowns to Kittle in that game. Purdy just does the simple stuff, does what you ask. I'm jealous of it because of Zach Wilson is allergic to the simple stuff. So I'm a big fan of Brock Purdy and what he has been able to do for that team. All right, fill in the blank. Cleveland Browns defeated your Baltimore Ravens 13-3. I will admit right now I did not watch a single play of this game because it fit perfectly with the Bengals basketball stuff. But were you doing this on Saturday?
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Was this you? Is that you? Yeah.
That was so me.
All right.
So me.
However, I asked you this question. Lamar's agent thought blank during that Saturday afternoon game.
Pay him. Get him in there. Get this whole conversation over. I mean, without him in that offense right now, he just does not. This offense is just not clicking. I mean, you look at Mark Andrews. He just didn't look. We lose another receiver with Duvernay now going out.
Mhm.
We
Hey, we got Sammy Watkins.
we signed Sammy Watkins back.
Congrats.
And so, but you've got Jackson there. We got Robinson. We got Prochet there. A couple of names that Jackson and Prochet. I mean, it's still a rough receiving core, but Cleveland shut down for the most part J.K. Dobbins enough to just control the tempo, and it just looked bad. And without Lamar in that lineup, I think it's still affecting it as much as what they were dialing up. But it's getting to the point, though, that Greg Roman's play calling is starting to get very
Well, what do you
stale.
expect him to do? Because he doesn't have the talent at the wide receiver core to do anything different. He's on his backup quarterbacks. The running backs are not doing anything. So they built this team around Lamar's strengths. And as much as people make fun of him for being a running quarterback and being a running back that's also a quarterback, the wide receivers they got are set to be able to get open while he's able to create some time for them or create space for him. And it works perfect for what Lamar likes to do. Now, with Lamar out, you go, well, this team is not built for a normal quarterback. And that's not a slight at Lamar Jackson at all, because he just has a different skill set than most quarterbacks.
And Huntley is not a bad running back, but he is close to it. He can run the ball a bit, but for me, it's starting to look like, Greg Roman is not keeping up with the first year and a half when they were running the ball with him and they were designing plays around him. It looked really good, but I don't think Greg Roman has stepped up his game.
That's true.
His play design and all that with him in mind, especially with Dobbins in there and the receiving course that he does have. So I think it boils down to Greg Roman having to do some changes in whether or not he is going to do it quickly enough and whether or not Baltimore is going to get Lamar back this week.
Yeah, but to answer the question, Lamar's agent was thinking,
show me the money!
Pay him.
Absolutely pay him. We both nailed it. Baltimore is completely lost right now with the way that offense is set up without Lamar Jackson, and he needs to be paid, and they need to guarantee him all that stuff. Or they need to get rid of him and burn that place up and rebuild from the start, because you cannot lose Lamar and win with the weapons you have right now with a normal quarterback. It's not built that way. Last fill in the blank game. New Orleans defeated Atlanta 21-18. Now it's 3 teams that are 5-8, 5-9. What are we at now? 5-9, I think.
5-9.
The NFC South, and then here are the Buccaneers
8,
leading the division at 6-8. It's horrendous. But focus on Atlanta real quick. Desmond Ritter's debut was blank.
I'm going to say shaky. I mean, he only completed half of his passes, under 100 yards passing, and 6 carries for 38 yards, 39 yards. For me, it just looked like they were going to hand off the ball to Patterson, and what it was. It was all about Patterson. It was all about Algier, and so what they were doing, those two with the running game. But come on, you got to turn him a little bit more loose. Let him try to get something to happen. It just looked like, for me too, the play calling just wasn't there being. How do I want to say this nicely? Almost to the point that they feel like they can just sneak into the playoffs if they can get through with Tampa Bay losing their. I think there's a chance they're going to lose 2 of their last 3.
For sure. None of these teams are good.
No.
But to me, I think his debut was expected. I think they were very safe with him, even with them coming out of the bye week. While they are a 1 game out of the playoffs, I don't think Atlanta themselves feel like they are a playoff contending team. So that is why they are using these last few games just to get his feet wet a little bit. They're not going to overextend him. They're just going to let him get a little bit of experience. He was up and down in his performance, but I don't think he did anything egregiously bad. I don't think he did anything fantastically well. It was a debut from a quarterback that I've always thought was going to be a project, and hopefully in a year or 2 or 3, he can really blossom into a very good quarterback. Unfortunately for him, that's not how the NFL works anymore. It's either you are fantastic from the jump or you're garbage and we kick you out. That's just where we're at. So we'll see what he is able to do from there. Let's get to one more set of games.
Who would cross the bridge of death must answer me these questions 3. The other side he sees.
Let's do some over and under real quick since we are, once again, taking too long, but that's what we do. We've had some fun conversations. Over under, Philadelphia defeated Chicago 25-20, but Jalen Hurts gets injured. He is questionable for the Saturday game against the Dallas Cowboys, a big game in the NFC East. Over under 20 points scored by the offense for Philadelphia on Saturday against Dallas if Gardner Minshew has to start.
I'm still going to take the over because they're still averaging over 20 a game. Even the chance of him not playing. And today, though, he did talk about there's a good chance that he's still could play, but whether or not. If Minshew can connect with Brown, I mean, Brown has had a unbelievable season up there. I think it's a possibility, and it's just going to be like maybe 22-23, but I think it's a good possibility of being over.
The people in the Pacific Northwest would lose their minds if Minshew started for Philadelphia and they beat Dallas. They would lose their minds. And a lot of teams might want to try to sign him. We'll see what happens if he's able to start. I'm going to say under, only for the fact that the Eagles only scored 26 points against Dallas in the first meeting with Jalen Hurts. I know Dallas's defense the last few weeks have kind of looked like Swiss cheese. So it's possible, but I'll take the under, and we'll see what happens on Saturday. Pittsburgh 24, Carolina 16, over under 8.5 wins for Pittsburgh this season. For them to do that, they have to win out. But I bring this up because Mike Tomlin and his, how many years has he been at Pittsburgh? 20?
Seems like that.
He's been there with the Steelers forever. Has only had one losing season, and that was last year. With the win this week against Carolina, the chance to still finish above 500 is still there. Do they do it?
I don't know. If coming into this week with Las Vegas being there, I think they're going to be riding high as they come away with that big win here. So Vegas, I think they're going to end up with a W, over Pittsburgh. And I've got to pull for Baltimore. I mean, Baltimore's got to start picking up and playing a little bit better. Lamar should be back by that time and should be able to get things done. So I think right away they end up losing both of those, and then to finish the season playing against
under
Cleveland.
Just under. Well, again, we were trying to go quickly.
Yeah, just under.
Just not quickly. Under for me too. I don't think they're going to win all three. It's 2 division matchups and the Raiders with the win. They're not going to win all 3. Finally here, Cincinnati beats Tampa Bay 34-23. Over under 4.5 games that Brady will play with Tampa Bay for the rest of his career.
Well, if he can sneak in, if they can sneak into the playoffs, I'm going to shock you. I'm going to just say barely over because that division is terrible as it is. I think they make at least 2. So I think they'll get the over. I'm going to take the over on that one.
No Chief stock on this part, Robert. That game was not great. I'm going to say under because I set 4.5 for a reason. You have 3 regular season games left.
Mm-hmm.
Then if they make the playoffs, they'll play their 4th game in the wild card. So then you're either saying they're going to beat Dallas or he's going to come back next year. I'm going to say no on either of those. So it's a under for me. And then, of course, the other games, Denver beating Arizona 24-15, Kansas City with a 30-24 overtime win against Houston, which is kind of shocking. But Houston played Dallas tight too, and Kansas City has kind of been up and down a little bit as far as putting teams away. both of us are taking Kansas City to beat Seattle so much that we're taking the Seahawks as our loser pick next week. So got to root for the Chiefs. So I'm trying to be nice. We'll get there. Chargers beat Tennessee 17-14 in a game I didn't feel was even that close. And Green Bay beat the Rams 24-12. So right now in the NFC, you have 4 teams that have clinched a playoff spot: Eagles, Vikings, 49ers, and Cowboys. Buccaneers lead in the NFC South by a game over the rest of the NFC South. Giants have the 6th seed. Commanders have the 7th seed. Then you have the Seahawks and the Lions half a game back. Packers staying around a game and a half out. And then in the AFC, Bills, Chiefs are locked in. Cincinnati now with the division lead in the AFC North at 10-4. Tennessee right now barely leading in the AFC South. And you have Baltimore, Chargers, and Dolphins with the Patriots, Jets, and Jaguars trying to stay in it. Any big jump you expect over the next 3 weeks before we get to that?
Like you were saying with your question a minute ago with Tampa Bay, I think if you jump into that and if things ended now, they'd have to take on the Cowboys. So it's the Cowboys playing so weird right now. That NFC is going to come down to the craziest final 2 weeks, 3 weeks that it's I don't know what to think about Washington. So it's going to be crazy. So I hope you didn't burn your pulling them out in week 3 too early if they are able to sneak in.
We'll see. Power rankings time. Let's get to it with visuals this week. We're going to hold on. I got to start it. View. There we go. Bingo. All right. Let's get into it. Power rankings this week. Robert, I'm going to let you go first since you weren't here last week.
For me, I'm going to keep the Minnesota Vikings in at 5, even though they had rough game getting into it. I still, there's 11-3 on the season, fully dominating in the NFC North. I just like them that much. Now, this one is for you, sir. I finally put the Cincinnati Bengals up there in the top 5. I'm going to put them at the 4 spot. Joe Burrows is just looking so good, and just finally have Chase back. This is his 2nd full week back since his injury. That combination has been looking so deadly. I hate to see them in week 18 against Baltimore in Cincinnati. It is going to be a tough one. Number 3, I'm going to keep San Francisco in the number 3 spot. All you got to say is Christian McCaffrey. I mean, what that guy has done since he's made his way there is just been huge. I'm going to keep the Chiefs at number 2, also 11-3 with Patrick Mahomes and what he's doing. For me, with this team that's been a little scary over the last couple of weeks, and Robert Taylor, he's probably going to disagree with me a little bit, but the consistency play of Travis Kelce the last couple of weeks has been a little shaky. Nothing to go and fret about going on, because we both do agree that he is one of the top tight ends to ever play the game. But for me, I still got to give the nod to Philadelphia. I mean, what Jalen Hurts is doing, 13-1, and what that ball club is doing right now with Brown, they're looking deadly.
I hit it too far. There you go. Everyone know I got the Eagles 1 as well. It's really no surprise the way they continue to play, but they might get caught here in a little bit. We'll see if Hurts stays healthy or not. For me, I have been all in on the San Francisco 49ers. I continue to love what the 49ers are doing. They just locked up the NFC West. It doesn't matter what quarterback they have. The talent right now on that team is absolutely phenomenal. So I will keep them at number 2. I think you have the Bengals too low. And I might even have the Bengals too low. We'll see if the Eagles start falling off a little bit. Cincinnati, I think, right now is your favorite in the AFC. They went out. They beat Mr. Patrick Mahomes. They got the big win there. They're looking stronger and stronger. And, Joe Burrow got this team to the Super Bowl last year. Their offensive line was a mess. The entire offseason, all they did was spend money on that offensive line, and it's taken them a month, 2 months to really start gelling. And now you're seeing what this team can do with a strong offensive line to protect Joe Burrow. I have them at 3. I'm going to bring the Buffalo Bills back into my top 5. They've been out for the last few weeks. Big win against the Miami Dolphins on Saturday. Colder weather starting to get there. I think the running game starting to pick things up a little bit. It's not all on Josh Allen. The defense, I still need to do a little bit more, especially come playoff time when you're going up against the Burrows and the Mahomes and some of those top quarterbacks. But then number 5 to me is the Kansas City Chiefs. I do drop them a little bit. I gave them the same punishment as I gave Dallas last week. You play tough against the Houston Texans, you get knocked down in my power rankings. It's how it goes. But to me, those 3 teams, the Bengals, Bills, and Chiefs, have a huge gap before anyone else in the AFC as far as contenders in the playoffs go in that conference. And it's going to be really fun come January.
The one thing I'm just to chime in on, we both have kept Philadelphia in there.
Mm-hmm.
You look at their schedule the next 3 weeks, and let's go back to that question really quick. Do you actually start Minshew? If you look at their schedule, they've got the Cowboys this week, but then you've got the Saints and you've got the Giants, which I think that
if Hurts is healthy enough to play, you play him against Dallas because you beat Dallas, you lock up the division, and basically, I'm pretty sure you're very close to the number 1 seed. If not locked, you're basically locked. So you get that, then you can rest Hurts and get him ready for the postseason. If he is good enough to go where you're not too concerned about re-injury and losing him for the playoffs, absolutely, this is a huge game for them on Saturday. Eliminators. Well, I'll try to get a graphic for this next week. Just by the time now the season's almost done, but we both had 7 teams in both the AFC and NFC eliminated. Right now, you have nobody that you have eliminated that is currently in the playoffs. Got to start worrying about Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
I have to worry about them as well. Who do you eliminate here in Week 15?
I have to take him. I'm going to say Myles Garrett in the Cleveland Browns. I mean, as much as they've played.
Team.
What's that?
Are you just mad at them because they beat your team?
No, God, no. I don't think they've got enough games in that they're going to be able to make a push to get up in there. So,
yeah, right now I have Washington at the 7th seed. I have to worry about Jacksonville. I have to worry about. We'll see where they end up. But I'm with you. I'm flipping you crap. But with the teams that we've already eliminated, I've already eliminated some of these other teams that are barely on the fringe. The last team I really have is Cleveland. I'm not quite ready to eliminate my Jets, but I was tempted to after that loss with Detroit. I think their road to the playoffs is sketchy. But I'm not quite ready to eliminate them yet. Obviously, if they lose on Thursday, you know my pick next week.
Well, I think you know where I'm going to go this week if it happens, which should happen based on my loser pick. My next one should be an NFC team.
Yeah.
And it should
that works too. Big games upcoming. Christmas messes up the whole schedule. We have 1 game Thursday, a bunch of games Saturday, 3 games Sunday, and then a game Monday. So a lot of football.
11 games on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with it. Let's get to those big games. A lot of games with both teams still in the playoff hunt. On Saturday, Thursday we'll get to Jacksonville Jets, but Saturday, Seattle at Kansas City. The Giants at Minnesota could be an interesting one. Cincinnati at New England. Can the Bengals try to eliminate the Patriots a little bit? Lions and Panthers. Panthers still kind of have playoff implications, which is weird to say. Washington at San Francisco, and of course, Philadelphia at Dallas. And then on Sunday, Green Bay trying to sneak their way back into this playoff hunt. Only a game and a half out. I don't see them making it, but at Miami. So I'm a big Packer fan come Christmas Day because I need the Dolphins to come back to the Jets a little bit.
Speaking about that, we didn't talk about that. Did you see our buddy Chris Lean was on NFL on the telecast?
Oh,
He
yeah?
was actually screaming on. He was at the Lambeau.
Nice.
He posted that today on his Facebook page. But I think that has to be the game that I'm most interested in. Is there enough to get them back in the conversation?
There's only one game that's correct for the most interesting game. And no, it's not Philadelphia Dallas, even though most of the world will say that. All of your talking head shows are only going to talk about that game. You're going to spend too much time on it. There's only one game that matters. It's Thursday night. Jacksonville, Jets. Almost an elimination game at this point, especially for the Jets. I think if Jacksonville loses this week, they get Houston the week after. Tennessee could come back down to earth because they play Dallas next week. So they can still stay alive even with a loss. So we're going to do our Thursday night pick'em. And I'm saying it right now. Whatever you take, I'm taking the opposite. So am I rooting for or against my team, sir?
Boy, everything that's going on right now, currently, your Jets are favored by 1 in the Meadowland Thursday night. Zach Wilson, Wilson to Wilson, Gardner. I'm going to take Jacksonville. I'm going to take Jacksonville on the road. So that's who I'm going to go with. I have him-hawed all day about that because I laughed with what you said you were going to do.
I was
but
taking the opposite no matter what.
I think Lawrence looked really good. I think if Etienne can hold on to the ball quite well, which I think he's going to have to, games are going to be extremely cold this week. Watch for them to run the ball quite a lot. And I don't know if Zach is ready to throw the ball as bad as he's looked over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, just need that rushing game to come back. Man, I miss Breece Hall so much. So I'll take the Jets. I root for my team. We might both get eliminated on the same day as far as contention for this stuff goes. But who knows? You are watching the R&R Sports Report Winter Break Edition. We're out of the studio until the end of January. And this honestly is our chance to kind of mess around a little bit with some formats, try different things. I still want to come up with different ways to do the show because we get the people watching from outside of the local area and then they just disappear after the first hour because then we talk about local stuff. None of the local people stick around to get to the local stuff. So we'll mess around with some stuff. We still need to clip things up and then repost them, I think, on our page. I think that'll be good for us. Things that we're working on 100 and whatever episodes in. It's a learning process and we're having fun with it.
Yep.
But next week, we will either go live Monday night or we are just going to record it and then post it at our normal time on Tuesday. I still haven't fully decided that yet. We've done such a good job over the last few months of having a show every Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Pacific time for you guys. And I want to continue that consistency. So it makes me want to just record it and post it. But then we don't get the fun comments with you guys as well. So we'll see how we feel through the Christmas time. It would be nice to try to get a couple guests on to talk about the Vista tournament, which starts on Tuesday night. So it'll be one of the two. We will let you know through our Facebook page. So definitely go follow there. All right, sir. Let's get into some local high school sports. We'll start with the two schools that we are most associated with. We'll talk about more later on in the show. Tell me, how have the Bantams been doing?
Well, they did play last Tuesday night, which was the night you had the game. They traveled up to Moscow. I know you had the show. I was under the weather, so I had to listen through hearsay. But the Bantam girls pick up a big win against the Bears. Lexi Villavicencio, the sophomore. Lexi Villavicencio.
Okay, you're going to have to say that 20 more times throughout the next month before Golden Throne.
I've already got that one practiced after last year.
I need to practice for Golden Throne. That's what I'm saying.
There you go. She is a second-year player, a sophomore on the team. Kind of took the reins and came up big, 13 points in that one. Also, Eloise Teasley, who is playing as the big for the Bantams this year. another double-digit game with 12 points in that one. Kennedy Thompson, Jack A. Williams, both of Moscow, each had 9 points during that game. And then in the boys' evening game 2, come up just short as they were trying to slow down Xavier Santana. Santana still gets 31 points, but it came down to the final minute or two, and they were able to just hold him where he wasn't able to get some big buckets, and Moscow comes away with a win, 72-66. Carter Steinman also had 16 points in that one. For Moscow, Dylan Rader and had 14 points, and Grant Abendroth ended up with 12 points. And then Bantams were supposed to be on the road. I was supposed to be in the road yesterday to Ellensburg. I am glad we didn't go, because as much snow as we got here and what's falling in the middle of the state, it is that game got canceled. So they're looking at or postponed, I should say. They are looking for some dates, but you know how it is. After Avista's done, it is all about the matchups and league matchups. And so this might be a game, a set that we don't get to with Ellensburg. And so with that being said, I'm okay with it moving on into things happening with the Avista tournament next Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm ready for the Avista. Right now, on the Lewiston side, girls had their chance to get back to 500 going into the Christmas break and going into the Avista. They pummeled Pendleton a week ago. They were playing during our show last week. And again, thank you to Eric Watkins for filling in that second hour with me. Of course, he missed the 1 hour of NFL talk and then was here for most of the local stuff. But he was a good sport about it. We had a good time. Girls crushed Pendleton 58-23. Pendleton will be one of the teams that we see next week. Addie McArcher led the way with 16 points. But then on Saturday, which is still weird to me that we had senior night in December. It's odd to me that with so much part of the season left, we had a senior night stuff. They just felt flat. There was a lot of emotions on the court, even though there's still a lot of season left. Just honoring the 6 seniors there. You could tell it was really hard on the girls. There was a lot of tears shed during the speeches and such. There's a lot of younger sisters to the seniors that are on the team as well. So they never got out of the gates against Sandpoint. And they've been playing very well, struggled there, lose 67-40. Zoe Kessinger led the way with 12 points, but they were just really never in that game. Boys under Brooks Malm, their defense is starting to look more and more legit. I'm still not quite certain that the defense can slow down a team like Lapway, which is something we could see on Wednesday if things fall the correct way as far as the Avista tournament goes. But I would love to see that matchup. They also crushed Pendleton 72-29. They led 46-8 at halftime. All 11 players scored, which usually happens when you blow a team out. You just throw everybody out there. But Carson Way and Jordan Bramlett led the way with 10 points each. And then against Sandpoint, not senior night for the boys, they win 70-37, another dominating opening quarter. They were without James White and Tegan Nubo, son of our buddy Brandon Nubo. They were both out with the flu, but all 9 players that were there in that game all scored. Carson Way led the way with 17 points. Bramlett had 15. Team is starting to gel and click. I still think that they need to find different ways to score and have that go-to guy. Carson Way looks like he could be it, but he's very hesitant at times with the basketball. I know Coach Malm has been kind of getting on him during games of, hey, we're setting these plays up for you to shoot the basketball. And he's trying to be unselfish, and that's very cool. But you need that go-to guy, and I think that's just what Lewiston is short of. Unfortunately for both the Lewiston teams, and Clarkson is going to have to deal with it on the boys' side with Pullman, is their league is brutal. The girls who are improving, I don't think have a chance in the Inland Empire League this year because the other 3 teams in their league are all undefeated. Not in league play, period. Lake City, Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, all undefeated as far as last Saturday goes. The boys are starting to look really good, but then Lake City has a player who I think is going to play Division I NCAA basketball. And he is crushing people right now. And Buchanan, you keep an eye out for that guy. He's so good. And the last time Lake City played Lewiston last year, they beat him by 50 in the district tournament. It's a tough league for Lewiston right now. All right, let's get into some fun. We've been talking about the Vista tournament. Let's run down the matchups.
Basketball, gimme the ball because I'm gonna dunk it! Basketball, gimme the ball because I'm gonna dunk it!
All right, we're going to do our predictions next week. Okay? So you got a week to think about who's going to be in your finals, who's going to be the champion for both the boys and girls. I just want to know, we're going to run through the boys first, then the girls. Those Tuesday matchups, which one are you most looking forward to? And don't be a straight homer. You could be if it's the game you're looking forward to. But on the boys' side, 9 a.m. starts things off. Clarkson versus Pendleton. Haha, you have to get up before me. Noon, Prairie versus Shadle Park. 3 p.m., Lapway versus Moscow. And then 6 p.m., the nightcap for them, Kellogg versus Lewiston. What's the matchup you're most looking forward to?
As for me, as much as I love my Clarkson Bantams, I'm actually looking forward to watching Case Wynot and Lapway. I really am against Moscow. I will be there early. I've got to be there by 8, so I will be there early in the morning. But Clarkson will host Pendleton to begin with. But Lapway, dude, they're 2 games back to back. They've put up over 100 points. Case Wynot triple double. Look for him to be the MVP of the Avista tournament. I'm going to throw it out there right now.
That's the other thing we need to predict next week is the MVPs as well. Moscow's been playing really well. You saw it with I guess you heard about it because you were under the weather, but they were able to beat Clarkston last week. They have put up really good performances. I think they might be one of the toughest, if not the toughest competition for Lapway. Lapway got a really tough draw on the boys' side. They don't get an easy out. So I think that's your opening matchup that could be really interesting. Also, I do want to see Prairie and Shadle Park. I don't think either of those 2 teams really have a chance to win this tournament, but that's kind of the fun is you get these 2 teams that usually aren't in the Avista tournament. And they get to have some fun. Girls side, they start at 10:30, Clarkson versus Grangeville, 1:30 Pendleton versus Prairie, 4:30 is Lapway versus Moscow, and 7:30 Kellogg versus Lewiston. What's your key matchup?
This one, I'm going to go homer on it. I'm excited to see what Debbie Sabota can do with these girls and run them against the Grangeville Bulldogs, who have always been an up-tempo team. It is going to be the second game of the day, so it's not super early. It'll be a 10:30 tip time, approximately 10:30. But out of that one, I think that's where I'm looking at. Pendleton girls are not all that good, and so I think Prairie is going to run all over them here next week. So,
no offense to Alexa, the head coach for Moscow. The Moscow girls are not as good, so I think Lapway will roll there. I think it'd be interesting. I don't want to go homer, but Lewiston and Kellogg could definitely be a very interesting matchup to close things out. But I'm going to agree with you, Clarkson and Grangeville. I think Grangeville going to the state tournament last year, taking on Clarkson, who's been a very strong team as well. That's a fun opening round matchup between the 2. We'll move to college football real quick. FCS has made it to their championship game. We both agreed in our picks last week. We went 1-1. That's kind of how the bowls have been working for us too. But North Dakota State, South Dakota State championship game. All the way out on January 8th. Who do you got?
I'm going to go as South Dakota State. They're going to be the home team there in Frisco, Texas, but they have played quite well all season long. Just the one loss. So I think I'm going to go that way. The Battle of the Dakotas.
It is. I mean, they feel like we've had that before in the FCS. I don't watch it a ton, but I'm going to go North Dakota State. Why? I don't know. I haven't watched any of it. Just like some of this other stuff we're just about to talk about, because I can't. Well, I like the tournament, but I don't like the bowls. So we'll just be different. We'll try to remember that in a few weeks when they face off. But you know. All right, let's continue the college football talk with
Nico, it's Roman. Let's go bowling.
For the last time, Roman, I don't want to go bowling.
I don't want to go bowling. I hate bowls. I'm off the bowl bandwagon. Robert made me make picks anyways.
Yes, I did.
And
Right
somehow
now, yeah.
we agreed for the first week of picks. We don't have a single pick different than I think tomorrow is the first time, right?
I believe you are correct. Let me double check here.
Tell me how we're doing because I have no idea.
We are 5-6 through today's morning game with that one. But right now we've got the evening pick. So far we've got Toledo leading 21-7 with 9:03 left to go in the fourth. But we do tomorrow is our first game that we have different. I took South Alabama. You took Western Kentucky. So it'll be one of us will be the way we're at 6-6. I think we'll be 6-6 going into tomorrow. One of us will be 6-7. One will be 7-6.
I don't know if it's me or not, but you are sounding all sorts of weird right now. Like it went all super speed and crackly on me. I don't know if he is listening live, but that was good. That got weird.
Probably the internet.
Okay, there. Now you sound better.
I keep watching. Okay. I keep watching my internet signal, and it's going up and down. So that's probably
all right. You sound better now, but we should be 6-6. I don't want to click on that. Don't do that. I'll take 6-6. I'm okay with 6-6.
Mm-hmm.
Let's real quick go through the scoreboard. Like you said, Toledo over Liberty 21-7 in the third. Let's go to the NBA again. There are 5 games going on already. Finals. How about my New York Knicks? They crushed the Golden State Warriors 132-94. Bulls beat the Heat 113-103. Jazz over the Pistons 126-111. And going on right now, Wizards up over the Suns 60-48 in the third. And in the first quarter, it's all Nuggets over the Grizzlies 22-6. NHL full slate. Hurricanes over the Devils 4-1. Flyers over the Blue Jackets 5-3. Penguins beat the Rangers 3-2. Maple Leafs beat the Lightning 4-1. Jets are crushing the Senators 5-1. Not the New York Jets, but I wish the Jets would crush like Winnipeg's doing right now. And the Kraken and the Blues are scoreless about 7 minutes into the game. We still get Ducks and Kings and Flames and Sharks later on. We'll look at NCAA basketball. Gonzaga, 13-point lead over Montana into the second half, 54-41. Number 22, Miami is beating number 6, Virginia, 55-46. Duke, number 14, Duke lost to Wake Forest tonight, 81-70. So a couple upsets going on the men's side. Look over to the women's side real quick, and we had a couple big matchups there going on right now. Number 2, Stanford is all over number 21, Creighton, 24-10. They're still in the first quarter. I already told you Oregon beat Arkansas by 7, and Michigan did hold on to beat number 6, North Carolina, 76-68.
Before we jump into LCSC stuff, I want to backtrack for just 1 second.
How dare you backtrack?
I'm going to backtrack just because of this kid right now. Case Why Not is up right now for Player of the Week here nationally. If you want to go and check that out, I did put the link on our Facebook page. Make sure you go and vote for him at I want to say prephoops.com and pick the Idaho boy Case Why Not with for Athlete of the Week.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Lapway again in a second, but that works too. Why Not has been fantastic again. Very excited to see him live this year or next week, I should say. Hey, tell us a little bit about those LC basketball teams right now.
Well, the men's basketball team's right now 6-5. They take a tough loss to Corbin, 70-57. Davian Brown, 18 points, and Silas Binion had another great performance against Corbin, 12.7 rebounds, but able to come away with a big victory against Bushnell, 88-78. Davian Brown again, another double-digit game, 24 points. Mr. Courtney himself, right? Orion had 11 points, 9 rebounds. 5 players in that Bushnell game were in double figures. So they are playing some great basketball. I really hope these kids can get the opportunity to stick around for the Avista tournament, watch some of this, as you know, we've shared with them. So hopefully they get to see something here with them here.
They might get a little jealous by the crowds that these high school kids can get, but men struggling, kind of going up and down. The women not
struggling.
They were named the Cascade Conference Under Armour Team of the Week as they defeated Corbin 71-59. Callie Stevens, fantastic 20 points. She's been great all year, of course. Ellie Sander has been great the last few weeks. She had 15 points. And how about freshman Peyton Hymas? She had 12 points, all of them in the first half. Just another offensive threat for the Warriors to use. And then they rolled past Bushnell. Hannah Broyles, coming off of an injury, scored 23 points. She was 5 of 6 from 3. And Maddie Holm with a double-double, 11 points, 15 rebounds. They're now 10-1 overall, 5-0 in conference play, and they've won their last 10. And as you said, both teams off this week. They will be back at home right after the Avista tournament, and that is kind of why we do the Avista tournament a little bit earlier this year in the week, because we got to get out of the way for college basketball.
Yeah, I think they play on Thursday, or I'm sorry, Friday
and Saturday. Yep.
Right, Friday and Saturday, right after we're done with the Avista.
Yep.
I don't even think they break down the tables. I think they keep everything set up, and here we go.
Volleyball out of season right now, but still making the news. How about Gracia Enriquez getting named to the NAIA and AVCA All-American Honorable Mentions list? She was not on the original list, which is why this is coming out so late, but they found an error, apparently, and put her on the list, which is rightfully deserved. Very cool video on the LC Warriors Facebook page of them giving her that news. Very cool to see. She was fantastic. Of course, 325 kills on the year, 126 digs, 21 blocks, 43 aces. First Warrior to be on the All-American recognition list since Tori Edwards back in 2019. So congratulations to Gracia. And now she's going to have some new teammates, as Abby Neff came in just after we got off the air on Tuesday. It was a little bit later in that week. She was a first team East Region selection out of North Idaho College, had over 1,000 assists last year, over 400 digs. She also played for Lakeland, so she's a local talent. Won the state title in 2020. And I believe it was yesterday it was announced that she is bringing teammate Taylin Rowley, who also played for North Idaho College, who had 335 kills last year, many of those assisted by Neff. So kind of cool to see a couple teammates coming to LC and already having that connection, see what they could do with the Warriors next year. LC lost a lot of their front line who from graduates last year, but you do have some fantastic attackers still. You still have some really good front line there. I think the Warriors could be a really tough team next year. That back line is gross. Very, very good with what they brought in, and now bringing in Neff, I think they'll be good as well.
Yeah, it's seeing these two JUCOs coming in. I think it's going to be a huge push, whether or not we're going to miss those front people with Cassidy, with her graduating and all that. But
Jada, and Carly, and
all of those girls that played on the front is going to be hard to replace all of them. But I think I'm very intrigued after seeing the signing there today with Rowley coming down with her. So I'm excited to see what's in store for this program over the next couple of years.
All right, let's hit some more high school sports. We're not just Lewiston and Clarkson. We're not just basketball. Hagen, tell me what happened in the sport of wrestling.
Well, from what I know and what I've heard, Bailey, he's got to be probably the main guy in our team right now. He finishes 5th at the Best of the West tournament. Bodie Thieveridge, another big name, as he is a senior this year. Dad's the coach. He has been one of those guys that has been wrestling since he was 4. Look for these two boys to make a big push for state this year. But both of them have a decent showing in the Best of the West tournament. You look at Lewiston. Lewiston looked really good in this one too. Jolie Steiler ended up 6th. Hoyt Vass ended up 3rd in his weight class. Cole Lockhart ended up 8th. Pullman was the best team, finished out of the local teams. They finished 10th in this one. Lewiston finished at 18th. Carson at 34. That's the big problem that I'm seeing right now is Carson just doesn't have enough guys in there wrestling, and I think it's really hurting the team is by not having the depth that we used to have when we were at school. You had 2 or 3 guys every year competing for one weight class, and it was like every week you were having a wrestle off. So it'll be quite interesting to see how that one is. The Bantams are off this week. They will be heading to Freeman for the Freeman Invite next Friday. And then, like we talked, the first duel will be happening as we get into league play, and they'll travel up to West Valley and take on West Valley on the 4th.
Also, Clearwater Valley won the Beck Memorial, so congratulations to Parker Olson, Kean Bowler, Anthony Fabi, and Megan Blundell. They were all champions in their weight classes in that tournament, so we want to give them a shout out as well. Good job by the Rams in that tournament. Let's get to some other local basketball scores throughout the weekend and on Monday, which was crazy for me at work. We talked about it. Lapwai has scored 105 points in each of their last 2 games. They won 105-32 against Genesee on December 9th. And then on December 13th, a week ago today, they beat Clearwater Valley 105-34. The crazy thing between all of that, only 11 of the 210 points that Lapwai has scored in those 2 games came in the 4th quarter. Completely put on the brakes. Zach Eastman showing respect to his opponent, and still, you're putting up 100 points in 3 quarters against Genesee and 99 against Clearwater Valley in just 3 quarters. Ridiculous. They take on Baker of Oregon at the Pacific Northwest Nike Showcase on Thursday at 6 p.m. and then off to the Avista tournament. Saturday on the boys' side, some really interesting games. Troy defeating Clearwater Valley 56-44 to remain unbeaten. Eli Stoner had 15 points in that game. Kamui defeating Genesee 56-22. They also remain undefeated. Rayon Koo, we'll talk about him again for his efforts on Monday, ends up with 16 points. And then Colfax defeated Landersville Sprague 56-53, came back from an 8-point deficit. I'm not doing the whole thing. Don't even try. I'm just going with the 3 schools, not the 17 schools. The Colfax came back from 8 points down in the second half. Adric Jenkin had 16 points. Then on Monday, Jenkin had 19 points in the 71-36 Colfax win over Warden. Kamui took out Grangeville 53-39 to go to 6-0. Koo, again, fantastic, had 17 points. We also had Highland taking out Genesee 43-24. Ty Gochner had 10 points, 15 rebounds. And Nespers defeated Salmon River 68-55. Nick Kirkland had 16 points and 11 rebounds. Robert, I'll just ask you real quick. Out of those performances that we saw from the smaller schools this week, on the boys' side, what really stood out to you?
Listen, I got to watch Adric Jenkin play. He came off the bench against the Bantams. He looks good for a freshman. I can't wait to watch what this Colfax team does over the next couple of years with him in there. Did have a chance to talk with the coach Jenkin, hopefully try to get him on the show. We did talk a little bit about the show, and so hopefully get him on there. But I think he's got to stand out. Ty Gochner also looking like he is going to be that one that's going to lead Highland in this season.
Highland's an interesting team. They scored 43 points in the win against Genesee. They only had 3 players score. in that game. Geckner was actually the lowest scorer out of the players that put up points in that game. So they don't have a lot of depth there. Obviously, that's what happens with smaller schools. Salmon River in their game, I think they only dressed 6 people. So it's just kind of what you have to deal with the smaller schools. But I'm with you. Kirkland was really, really good too. Jenkin, I hear his name a lot. Koo as well. A lot of really good talent down there, which we see with Lustig going to LC and putting up some points for the Warriors already as a freshman. There's a lot of talent that gets hidden in some of these small schools. Tell me about the girls.
For the girls, Cammie, I was able to defeat Genesee 55-45. Genesee led by 10 after the first quarter. Laney Landmark had 12 points in that one. Clearwater Valley defeated Troy in a close one, 44-39. The Rams led by 10 after the first. Derica, I'm assuming that's how you say it.
Yep.
Derica Morgan had 20 points for Troy in the loss. Colfax defeated Lynn Ritzville Sprague Washtutna Calotus, and that was 72-45. I can say all the names. I mean,
that's too many.
It's
too many names.
Too many names. They do stay undefeated over them. Bryn McCoy. Again, I think probably hands down, probably the best girl that I have seen play so far this year. Bryn McCoy out of Colfax. Watch her. She is going to be a great player coming in out of this one. 28 points, 10 rebounds. And then you look at Colton. Colton defeated Yakima Nation Tribal 62-23. Again, I feel bad for that team. That's a new program. They're building themselves up there in Yakima Nation. So Gray School had 8 3-pointers in that one, finished with 34 points in that on Saturday. On Monday, Prairie defeated Potlatch 64-42. Kristen Wemhoff had 17 points, 11 assists, and 10 steals. So a nice triple-double for her. Colfax defeated Warden 51-39. And again, another 20-point game by Bryn McCoy. And she also had 9 rebounds on that one. And then wrap things up, Nez Perce defeated Salmon River 51-31. Faith Teagues had 13 points and 14 rebounds.
Yeah, Bryn McCoy has been absolutely fantastic for Colfax. Every time we get a call from Colfax doing those stats, it's one of those players, kind of like Case Why Not, that you're like, all right, what'd she do? Mm-hmm. And you know it's going to be a big number, and it's not just points. She's putting up rebounds as well. Again, she had the double-double on Saturday, just missed it in the win against Warden on Monday. That team's 8-0. Colfax is going to be a tough out throughout the rest of that season.
Yeah, and I was telling you about her, how she played against Clarkson, and when you put Eloise Teasley, who is the biggest girl on our team, at 5'10" against a 6'2" girl, I mean, Bryn was just all over the place. 31 points against Clarkson. She is going to be a dominant factor for this ball club.
Let's get into Major League Baseball. The big names, for the most part, have now been signed away, and we're starting to get settled in. We haven't had as many trades as I was hoping for here with the winter meetings. Maybe they will come in January. We'll see where they go, but more signings continue to go through. I'm just going to start listing them off. Robert, I want you to stop me if one catches your eye or your ear or whatever it catches. I don't care what it catches. Just let me know. Catcher Mike Zunino. Sorry about this, sir. Ended up going to the Cleveland Guardians for 1 year, $6 million.
Why would you apologize?
You like Zunino?
Yeah, he was good. I mean, he played quite well down south in Florida too. So I mean, he's had a decent career. So I'm excited for him. I hope he can put up some numbers in Cleveland.
Starting pitcher Rush Stripling signs with the Giants, who just keep spending money. 2 years, $25 million. How about Thor going to the Dodgers for a year?
Yeah, I think that what they're doing to bolster up both of these clubs, to bolster up the going up against each other, is going to be huge. Stripling's going to be another. Do you put him in the front or the middle of the rotation or the back of the rotation off that one?
Back, and hope he stays healthy.
And that's the big thing. 2 years for San Francisco to be keeping that rivalry going and dominant. I think that's an interesting pickup for them.
Oh, the Cubs. What are they? It's like I think they've been the most surprising team right now in the offseason. Have been the Chicago Cubs. They're not afraid to spend money. They go out and get Brad Boxberger, right-handed pitcher, for 1 year, 2.8. They also get starting pitcher Drew Smiley, and they also get shortstop Dansby Swanson. Swanson 7 years, $177 million, which just shows you the Cubs want to become contenders sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think that they're making a point here over this past week with these the couple of big ones with Smiley and Swanson. I think that you're 100% on that. They're wanting to make a big push. So
Adam Frazier goes to the Baltimore Orioles. Denny Grubb, who has just disappeared from hanging out on our show, I think, because we got rid of our trivia stuff, and he doesn't want us to. Like we try to outsmart him, and now that we don't do that anymore, he's like, I don't. That is not baseball season anymore. But
it's not baseball season.
Yeah, Frazier goes to the Orioles for a year. Carlos Rodon, he's a Yankee, 6 years, $162 million. My question to you, non-Yankee fan, do the Yankees have the best rotation in Major League Baseball, 1 through 5?
I think so. Well, what they're doing by signing Rodon, I think it's going to be huge. I mean, and to get the big weight of Aaron Judge finally to
that's official
to
today.
Play. Yeah, it was all official today. I think it's just telling you that this is the team that you have to watch out for. Everything's going to have to go through New York if you want to have a chance to win the pennant or even win the World Series over the next probably 5 to 6 years, 7 years at least.
Yankees have to clean up the bullpen. They had a great bullpen at the beginning of the year last year. Injuries really messed that up. See if they can stay healthy and be as dominant as they were the first 3 months compared to the back half of the season where they were really rough. I still also think they need to make one more move offensively. A lot of it is just to kind of clear out the infield where it's Josh Donaldson is holding up a spot. Aaron Hicks is holding up a spot in the outfield. I would like to see those two go away.
Your team didn't go back on the market to try to get Joey Gallo. What happened with that?
Thank God they did not. He is going to lose his mind in Minnesota. He did sign a 1 year, $11 million deal. Sad to see Benny go. He was there with the Yankees at the trade deadline, but the White Sox, 5 years, $75 million. You can't go up against that.
No. The big thing, and I'm giving you crap about Joey Gallo, but with the numbers he put up, how do the Twins justify giving him $11 million after the year that he just had?
Hoping for home runs. And they are hoping, and possibly rightfully so. Remember, the shift goes away next year.
Right.
Gallo could become a 150 average with the shift gone. He could bring that average from 120 to 150, I think. And I think that's what they are going for. Maybe. Who knows? Very, very sad news today for Yankee fans. Matt Carpenter going to the San Diego Padres. I love Matt Carpenter and what he was able to do. The mustache will be gone. He'll be back to the full beard, I'm sure. Was very happy with what Carp was able to do for the Yankees before breaking his foot. And hope he does well in San Diego. The big question is, there's like 20 names that have signed over the last week. Do you know what's missing?
I don't know.
The Seattle Mariners.
Yeah. Still not making him. They're not making any moves. And reading the article I read on Seattle Mariners the other day, they just were kind of waiting to see what happened after the meetings. But you've got to get a little bit more. You lose Mitch Haniger. Haniger signs with San Francisco. San Francisco's making a lot of moves this year, but what is Seattle doing to do anything? I mean, especially again after Houston now has already signed Michael Brantley again. Yes, Michael Brantley's getting up there in years, but they've got to find, I think, one more offensive weapon and at least one top. And I'm going to say this, one of the top three in the rotation starter for Seattle. I don't think they've done anything to even attempt to get there. So are they laying around wanting to make a trade?
Mm-hmm.
which is normally in their style of what they do. They like to get rid of the young talent that we have and try to get the win now. But we need a number 3, number 2 starter in Seattle.
Need something. You need to do anything. Just poke them with a stick. We need that meme right now. Just
Poke
what
'em.
are they? Just do something, anything, please. All right, let's move on. One more quick check of the scoreboard. As first, we'll look at the NHL and.
Oh, the good old hockey game is the best game you can name, and the best game you can name is the good old hockey game.
And right now, through one period,
Release the Kraken!
Kraken beating the Blues 1-0 through one. Ducks and Kings just getting started. And how about this? 2.5 minutes into this game, the Flames are beating the Sharks 2-0 already. Who says you can't score goals in hockey anymore? Oh, most people say that, right?
Mm-hmm.
NBA games that are still going on right now. Wizards over the Suns, 75-73 in the third quarter. Nuggets all over the Grizzlies, 38-21. See where Gonzaga is sitting right now. They're up by 10, 68-58, with about 6.5 minutes to go. Miami and Virginia, very close game right now. Miami up 65-64, which is 4 seconds to play, and Virginia just committed a foul, so I'll try to keep an eye out on that one. How's our stupid bowl game going?
Last I just looked here, flip it back over here. With 1:55 left to go, Toledo leads 21-19. So Liberty has scored twice here in the last about 6 minutes. So we might be getting to the point we're going to be 5-7 if Toledo can't hold on. Toledo does have the ball right now.
Hopefully this is the right button, but
Liberty, 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 liberty.
hang on, you have to play that, I think. I'm always afraid when I push a new button on this thing because some of them are not appropriate. Some of them are not what they say they are. And some of them break your speakers. That's for sure. NCAA, as far as the AP goes, again, I don't really care about rankings at this point, but Gonzaga has moved back up 4 spots. They're up to 11. The women's side, they are in 22nd right now. What else you got to talk about? Sadly, we usually have this time to talk about sports that don't get enough airtime. None of them are happening right now.
I know. So, 3 things we'll talk about here in a second. I want to know.
Yeah.
Just watch it, and you know, I like to watch the schedule. I like to watch the rankings, but right now I kind of agree with you. They don't matter. But how does a team like South Carolina for the women is leading, has been the number 1 team in the nation for now a couple of years, always have 29 votes. This week, mysteriously, only got 28 of the votes.
Who got the other one?
That I am not sure.
Unless only one person didn't vote this week.
That's what I'm wondering if that is what happened, but that was kind of crazy to see. But they only ended up with 28 of the 29 possible votes this week. Hey, PBA bowling. I know we got about a month before it starts, but are you excited and ready to see the U.S. Open that's going to happen end of when is it? January 29th, I think, is the first weekend of the U.S. bowling or the U.S. Open.
Bring it. I'm ready. We need to go somewhere, and I got to remember where this is at. So give me 1 second. Tell me if you're excited for bowling. I got to find this.
Listen, what those guys are doing now, I think what's happening, not just on the men's side on the PBA, I'm also excited to watch what's happening on the women's side, the PWBA. Shannon O'Keefe doing a bunch of training stuff. Danielle McWhirter, and she's watching her do training. Vera Crowley. What these guys are doing right now in their training time before their tournaments come up. It's just nuts to watch their training hours and doing. I'm excited to see the house guys get back into it. You know, Brad and them. They haven't been. At least I have not seen enough content of theirs lately. But I'm excited to see it back on TV. I'm tired of seeing reruns of PBA bowling right now.
I've been watching a lot of Darren Tang. He's been doing a lot of stuff. But so I found it. We need to make a trip to Chandler, Oklahoma, sir. Unfortunately, we can't just fit it around like nationals for bowling because they just get stuck in Nevada all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I know there'll be one in Louisiana in a couple of years. But in Chandler, Oklahoma, there is a special bowling lane that you and I need to have a competition on.
Okay.
Do you know what's special about this single lane?
Well, I've seen the longest bowling lane at one point. That was in Reno's National Bowling Stadium for a long time. It was well over the length of is it
Well, you're on the right track.
You're
on the right track.
Is it the longest asphalt?
101 foot long bowling lane. The house bowled on it, and it looked just insane to me. It's actually up above. They have 16 lanes of bowling there, and it's up above them is where this one lane is at. It goes like the length of the whole building.
Oh, wow.
It looks fun. So I have to send you that video. You and I need to go have a challenge for that.
Yeah, I can't. We need to get some bowling in because I have not. You know, we need to get another tournament. That another tournament in is what we need to get done. But the game of bowling and what they were doing with it right now with the bowling balls. I just researching bowling balls the other day. You know, thinking, oh, should I splurge and buy me a new bowling ball? There's so many things to put in consideration now with how you throw and all these specs and the newer terms of bowling equipment.
No, for sure. Also, something we need to figure out, and I'm calling us out on the air.
I know
we need to get this MMA thing done. It's driving me nuts. I want to just get it over with. So we need to get with the guys, and sometime in January, this guy get done.
I hope we can get her squeezed in there with all of our basketball stuff. So we need to get her done.
Figure it out.
Yep.
It's only going to get crazier. So we gotta get it going and get that going. So we can start thinking about what we're gonna torture ourselves with when we get to 700.
And with that being said, there's another fight coming up February 4th, and Dimitri Morales is already on the card in Spokane at Northern Quest. We'll have more information about that coming up probably at the end of this month or first of next month.
Just gotta get it done. That's just for sure.
Yep.
So that's just gonna do it for us tonight. We've hit our limit. We gotta start getting guests back on here. Kind of fill the second hour for sure.
Justin asked me to come on, so maybe that's what
at?
we shoot for. I never heard anything back after I told him. I said you need to come on the show on Tuesday, so maybe that's what we need to shoot for on Monday. Then is get a few coaches together, make some calls, get Zach, get them all in there. Maybe talk a Vista, get Tatco on.
Yeah, we got
a good time with it.
Spread that out. It's going to be difficult because it'll be the day after Christmas. But maybe we can sneak them off for a few minutes just to kind of talk about the Big Vista tournament. Again, we will either be live Monday night or we will record Monday night and post it at our normal time on Tuesday night, just kind of depending, especially if we can get some of these coaches on random times this week. Maybe we will just do a mesh episode and put it all together for you and post it on Tuesday. We will just kind of see where all of that falls. We will keep you posted. So if you haven't followed the R&R Sports Report Facebook page, please do so and keep up to date with what we will do next week.
It is final in the Boca Raton Bowl. Toledo ends up knocking off Liberty 21-19. Sir, you and I are 6-6 going into our first game that we have different tomorrow.
Hooray!
You took Western Kentucky. I am taking South Alabama. That game is slated for kickoff at 6 p.m. tomorrow night.
Don't care. Don't care. Good luck to Lapway in the Nike tournament on Thursday. We'll see what Why Not is able to do there. But that's it. I hope all of you have a fantastic holiday weekend. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, all the other fun stuff that you get with that. I know it messes up our bowling schedule, but it's definitely for an okay thing. So hopefully everyone survives it. Stay safe on the roads. I know they're supposed to be nasty in the area all week. So if you're traveling, drive safe and stay away from crazy people. Please.
I gotta travel tomorrow. I've got a doctor appointment in Pullman tomorrow. Stay warm. If you're in the LC Valley, stay warm. They're calling for 6 degrees below zero tomorrow. Thursday, 12 degrees below zero on the Palouse. So stay warm.
All right, that's it for us. Merry Christmas to everybody out there. We will see you next week, whether it's Monday night or a recorded show set for Tuesday. It's a Vista week. We're going to have a lot of fun. But for right now, that's Robert. My name is Randy. This is the R&R Sports Report. But for now, we are out.